it's just interesting. It's like I'm talking to this guy, Somalian guy, and he's trying to convince me that black people somehow have nothing to do with America and it's all white Protestants. And I'm like, what are you talking about, bro? Like, I mean, you don't think black people are like heavily influenced, if not controlling the military on a given, administration or any foreign policies, any foreign policy decision, or being Secretary of State, or being President or First Lady, or the head of defense. I don't understand this. The head of the Pentagon, like what I mean, what do you need us to do? They say and it's crazy because you hear people talk to me specifically as an African American, because I deal with a lot of groups, non-black spaces type of a thing. And when you don't communicate in a way that they feel is proper, they feel that they have the ability to discipline you in the same way that black people were in the beginning of Americans' history, when a black person, any white person could discipline a black person if they saw him acting inappropriate, or say looking at a white woman, or going into a non-black space, that they had the authority to do that, even if you weren't their slave, right? And it's like, as a black person, it's like, me having my own opinions and my own ideas. Some of those ideas may align with some of theirs and some of them may not. But the point is, these are my ideas, right? So instead of accepting that me as an African American, I have my own ideas, I have my own way of thinking, that they say, oh, well, you're thinking this way because you want to be with the Jews, or you want to be with Israel, or you want to be with the white colonialist, or whatever the story is. You want to be with them. So that's why you believe the way that you do, right? It's not because you were a man and you decided that, hey, this outlook makes the most sense for me and my objectives in life. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do because you're weak-minded and you worship white people and anything that looks white. So if they're Jewish, if they're Protestant, anything that's lighter than you are, you worship it, and that's your whole thing, And so you, as a black person, you do not have the ability to think, right? You do not have that ability to think. You only at best can be a stool pigeon for someone who actually can think, which is a white person or someone who's white minded. And this is what we're dealing with. This is the reality. The world still sees us as niggers. Okay? That's the reality. And it don't matter if you're a millionaire, doesn't matter, you got a billion white women. They said, look at Puff Daddy. Oh, that's a rich nigger in jail. All right? And I'm saying it as a white person too, right? I'm saying exactly how they said. And that's the reality. That's the reality. That's how the whole world sees us, no matter what. And the thing is, so now we got to ask the question, right? Because we believe in Hashem, and all things from Hashem are good. So the question is, why did God create this reality for these people? Why? And what is the good in this? Right? These are the questions that we need to be asking ourselves, not about, explaining to white people why they should not be racist, and, how we should all integrate and, be together, or we need to vote and take power in the government and change the rules and the laws. No, my question is, why did God, the creator of the universe, create a situation in the world where these group of people, okay, these African descendants from Israel, okay, who came into North America, and their whole identity is stripped from them, their whole thing. Just say, fine, we don't need to be from Israel. Say we just from Ghana. Okay, but why not just tell us that? Why not put that in our history books? Why not show us our culture? Because it wasn't our culture, and the people in Ghana, they would tell you that the people who were transported aren't from them. They would tell you that. The people in Nigeria would tell you that those people in the translated slave trade, those weren't our tribes. That wasn't us. They'll tell you that. So again, why did God create a situation where we are in this situation, that no matter what we are going to do, no matter how much we accomplish in their system, in their frame of success, It doesn't matter how much we do, we will still be seen as lower class. And we saw that with Obama. We've seen it with billionaires. Kanye West, multi-billionaire, he says something against Jews. Hey, they stripped him of everything he got. Now someone could say, well, that's anti-Semitic and it should happen. I was like, okay, fine, I hear that. I feel that. And you have to say that there has been white people who have said racist things that have also lost everything too, right? So it's not just saying, oh, by Kanye West, okay? But still to say that Kanye's West status and wealth couldn't protect him. Puff Daddy's status and wealth couldn't protect him. Bill Cosby's status and wealth could not protect him, right? So anyways, so the point is the same. So these are the things that we need to be thinking about and be asking God, because it's a very powerful gift spiritually to come into a reality that does not accept you, right? To come into a reality where you're going to be rejected, right? That's a gift, because none of it's real around you. None of this can fulfill me. None of it can make me happy. None of it can do. I don't care how many commercials they try to convince me of it all the time. Every billboard, they want to convince me if I buy this product, I'm going to feel the fulfillment of intimacy, right? That's why they got a naked woman next to it. Or some buff guy with big muscles, big six-pack, ponytail, the whole thing, right? So that guy is there, but they want to convince me. They want to convince me that there's fulfillment in their system, right? They show me this college, this education. Wow, everyone's wearing these robes. They throw their hat up in the air and they're full of joy and they're all united. Oh, if I just had that experience, I would be educated. So you control my education too? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Are you going to create systems that I get paid less than other people? You created that. Okay. Okay. All right. So that means I only can make so much money because of you. Okay. That's another lie, right? You could just keep going down the line. Oh, wait, I don't look this way. This isn't my weight. This isn't my height. This isn't my skin tone. This isn't my hair texture. Oh, so I must not be beautiful, right? So the whole thing is a lie. The whole thing's a lie. Harvard University is a lie. Yale University is a lie. The whole thing, the Library of Commerce is a lie. It's all a lie. Ain't nothing there for you. None of it do nothing for you. Now, there is this idea of providing for your family. But again, does that come from the labor or does that come from Hashem? Is the work just the intermediary for you to justify in your consciousness the receiving of parnasa? Because you need to justify God's bracha. And in fact, if you can't justify God's bracha for you, you will reject it. You will run away from your dreams. You will turn your back on your destiny. Right? So again, why did God make it this way? And that's when we get that answer, that's when you start to really love yourself and develop real self-esteem. Because there's no self-esteem creation for any American or anybody in the West. The report cards steal that away from you. Community pressure steals that away from you. Right? So there's no self-esteem in America. Self-esteem is about acquisition. If you acquire these things, you can feel good about yourself. You have this purse, you have these clothes, you have this outfit, you have this car, you have this house. Now you can feel good about yourself. Right? So anyway, so I want to learn path of the just. We're going into a new aspect of, of methods, right? We learned about watchfulness. We learned about zeal, being a zealot, running towards the mitzvah, and cleansing ourselves. And so now we're going to another aspect, which is this idea of piety. Yeah, what is it to be a pious person? Or how do we get there? What are the methods to get there? Right? Because we don't know about these things. All they teach us as black men is just to be arrogant, to be as arrogant as possible. The more arrogant you are, the more worthy of praise. You got to be like Deion Sanders, right? You got to be flamboyant. You got to be like Floyd Mayweather, right? You got to be flamboyant. You got to show them that you the best. You the best of everybody. You the best of all the black people. You the greatest one ever. Look how many gold chains you got on. Look how many diamonds. You are the best. You greater than all the Negroes in the chicken coop. You greater than all of them. You are equal to the white man. Or you're above the rest of the blacks, which is an aspect of being lower than the white man, but better than the blacks. So anyway, so that's what we're taught to do. We're taught to be arrogant. We're taught to not appreciate women, hate women, right? To see them as hoes and bees, right? Our fellow man, our fellow black man, hey, he's even a problem, you know? If he's from a different neighborhood, he's an enemy. This is what we're taught, man. Like, this is the real thing, bro. Two black people get into a room and there's a bunch of white people, bro. They're gonna be competing. They're gonna be who could out nigga each other. Who could do it? Let's show who the best. Ooh, I'm in the Jewish community and I'm so dedicated. I'm so dedicated to the Jewish community. I'm so dedicated. I'm the super Negro. I'm so loved in this. But when your kids went to that school, they told you, get out of here, black boy. They told you that. They told you, said, get you and your black kids out of Jerusalem. But you still want to dance. Because that's the condition of us as people, right? And Judaism doesn't fix that, right? God and Torah does, right? And that's why we're learning the sages, because just saying a person's a Jew and going and getting a circumcision, and next thing you dress like you from Eastern Europe. You up here wearing a strimal in the heat, you got a big jacket on, and you walking around talking about, yeah, this is what it is to be Jewish. No, it's not. Stop. That's a sect. They have their space, right? They got their space, right? But that's not the total picture. What about you? What about you? One day your kids are going to grow up and say, well, my parents converted to Judaism and, you just start dressing like a European guy. He's not going to understand that. That's not holy. That's a tradition. What's holy is when you take where you come from and you make that holy. Right? So some people may not like what I'm saying right now, but it is what it is, bro. And it's not just an issue for black people to convert to Judaism, even the person who's born Jewish. If they don't find out who they are, if they don't find out what the Torah means for them, for their specific tikkun, for their specific personality, okay? And to be able to take the wisdom of our sages and to envelop it into who they are, not what the community wants them to be. What they are, they will access their true destiny, right? And that's my point, right? It's easy to digest when I talk about someone else. But the reality is, this is what we're up against. And we're up against a lot of people that when you say that, hey, this is who I am, this is my identity, like there's people who have a problem with me talking about me being a black Jew and me being proud of the history of black Jews in America. And they're acting like, because you didn't acknowledge them doesn't mean they're not Jewish. That's the main point. Just because you don't acknowledge them does not make them more or less Jewish. It has nothing to do with you. It has to do with the halakha. Just like the Jews in Persia have nothing to do with you. The Jews in Yemen have nothing to do with you. The Jews that are in Iraq, the Jews that are in Morocco, the Jews that are in Europe, the Jews that are in Russia, they have nothing to do with you. You have nothing to do with Chabad. Chabad is doing things based off of their community and their lineage. They wrote their own sefer. and they follow it. And at the time, everyone was against it. So again, if people have a problem with me proclaiming my heritage as being equally holy and equally connected to the Ein Sof through Moshe Rabbeinu, through Avraham Avinu, through Shem, okay? So if you want to try to take that away from me because you want to segregate me to that class, I'm not going to allow you to do that. I'm not going to allow you to do that. I'm not going to allow you to say, well, Mordecai is a convert. I'm not. I'm not a convert. I'm not. I know it makes you feel comfortable because you don't know how to deal with Black people in places of equality. You don't know how to do it. So you don't feel comfortable with Black people unless you feel you have an advantage. Now, why? That's a whole nother conversation. But let's be honest. Bro, I have a buddy of mine, Zakaria. He's doing a documentary with ESPN with his cousin. His name's Quincy. He's a quarterback coach. You know, big quarterbacks. You know, it's got Watson that was by Cleveland. You know, a lot of people. He has a quarterback camp. But in the quarterback camp, they interview different quarterbacks, people like Warren Moon and Tony Dungy. I mean, I'm not saying Tony Dungy was a quarterback, but you know, this type of thing, right? And so the thing that's interesting about it is that in the documentary, it talks about how the different Black quarterbacks, when they would have to go to the combines, that they had to not show that they were as fast and as athletic, because if they did, they could get typecast and get moved into a different position. So we've always had to shrink ourselves to function in Western society, right? And we know it. We know that as Black people that we've had to shrink ourselves to not make white people scared in America, right? Now, someone say, oh, well, don't talk like that. Okay, I'm talking as a Black person. Would you want me to talk like somebody else, right? This ain't ghetto. You know, this ain't gangbanging language. No, this is Black intellectual, spiritual talk. And I'm only saying Black because the society that I grew up in removed the aspect of substance from me, right? We got the 4 levels of perception: substance, form of substance, abstract form, and essence. So the substance and the form of substance was completely removed from the intellect of the world, of me as a Black American. They only deal with me on objective form. They project onto me whatever it is. I could be Obama, I could be Jay-Z, I could be the guy on the corner, I could be Travion, I could be anything. Whatever they want to project to me. We're the only group of people that exists for. And you know who else that exists for? Jews, right? The whole world can disregard who that individual is and abstract that and say, no, I don't care about your substance and your form. All I know is that I'm projecting you're a Jew and whatever I want to add to that. Same experience. No difference being a Black person versus being a Jew. There's no difference. The world sees you in a frame of objective form, where they project on you whatever they want based off of various reasons. It could be your tone, it could be your smell, it could be your height. Bro, kids in school, Black kids in school, Black boys in school get ostracized by white teachers because many of them are physically bigger than them. You know what I'm saying? The whole system is about us shrinking ourselves to fit into various narratives of safety. Because even our lives are even in danger by expressing our totality, right? That Black kid that Black boy, he's getting sent to juvenile hall if he makes jokes in class. He's getting kicked out of the class because the teacher is fundamentally intimidated by him. Fundamentally, right? And they only justify it if we're athletes. Why are you not playing basketball? Why are you not playing football? You know. So anyway, so I want to just bring those things out because these are real things, man. Like these are real things. It's not just so simple. Like, you know, we're on this journey and it's about, you know, being ashamed of who you are. It's like, no. And that's the challenge that we have as Black people. It's like we are ashamed of ourselves and we have reason to. If anybody grew up in a reality that we would, they will also be ashamed of themselves. And there's a lot of Jews that are ashamed of themselves for the same exact reasons. The objectification inside of society, right? And so that concept of being proud of who I am, not because I'm black and my ancestors sung "We Shall Overcome." I have self-esteem because God created the perfect reality that my soul needed to achieve its correction in this lifetime. I needed racism. I needed segregation. I needed a world that rejected me completely. I needed that reality in order for my soul to achieve its purpose. Now, that may be difficult for some people to accept. That may be very difficult. How could you say that racism is good? We got killed, we got murdered, we got raped. We've been incarcerated, put back in slavery. How could you say that? Because we're in this world to serve God. We're just here to serve God. And whoever is Jewish, you need to listen to this as well as the African American who's also Jewish, by the way, right? He may not be Jewish in the way that I am, but he's in a frame of Tinok Shanishba, meaning that he can or she can go through a process of purification and do a proper bris milah, go into a proper mikvah, and retake on the oath of their ancestors to keep the 613 mitzvahs to the best of their ability. And they don't have to be converts. They could just be people who reacclimated back to their heritage that they had in Africa. And even before Africa, Israel. The same thing, we could say the same thing about B'nai Menashe. If we could say the same thing by the Yemenites, Rambam wrote them letters. That's how they know about halakha. If not, they'll be in the same situation as many other people in Africa. I'm not saying they're in Africa, but it's people in that region. So anyways, so the point is that they're Jews, right? So anyway, so that's the idea, man. You know, is to say, how do I take the Torah knowledge and the light that comes down from the Kedusha of the mitzvot, and how could I use that to cleanse these fake perceptions, these false perceptions about what life is and what my fulfillment is at? And how can I walk and live in that truth? That's what we're trying to get to. And if it's not that, you become like many other, not saying you, but I'm saying a person who does not have that perspective will come like a lot of many black Jews that have converted to Orthodox Judaism that hate their background, that hate where they come from. They feel that they're a different person now because they went through a mikvah process and learned some halakot. And because of those people, they never achieve the sweetness of the Torah. They never get the geschmack of learning. You'll see all these people. Look in the Jewish community. Look at the people who are the most radical and the most uniformed, right? Those are the people with the smallest amount of Torah, right? The Torah would make you see the way that you dress the whole way, that your whole life. I mean, assuming that it was sneas, and you want to elevate it. Now I know what a suit and tie means. Now I know what jeans and a sweatshirt means. Now I know what a hoodie could mean. Now I know what a New York hat could mean. But it's holy. It's holy. The way I dressed growing up was holy. My name, Sharif Hassan, that's a holy name. Yes, Mordechai Yosef ben Avraham, that's there too. They're not separate. A person's name is James, Malik, Jonathan, Jefferson, whatever. All these things are holy. They're all from God. Our job is to elevate it to holiness, to see the holiness, to make the connections, not to abandon who we are and run to something else. No, the Torah says, told Moshe, stand where you are. Stand where you are, for it's holy. You don't got to go over there by the bush. God's talking to you. You're already holy. And so the unwinding process that we're going through right now through these learnings, and we're about to go into it, is connected to these ideas. The idea of saying that we are already holy. We are already there. All we're doing is cleansing ourselves to see more of it. That's all we're doing. You're already holy. You're already great. You're already this. So people say, oh, well, I want to be a Jew. What are you talking about? You're just saying that you want to join the legal system. That's it. Because other than that, if you say you're Jewish, you're keeping the Torah in the middle of Alaska, in the igloo, or in the sub-Saharan desert. You're still going to say brachot on everything you eat. You're still going to sit on Shabbos. You're still going to do Yom Tovim. Because that's your soul. Your soul needs this light. Not because you're a part of a clique. You're with the crew. No, because you have a relationship with God where your umbilical cord to your life force comes to these connections. That's what makes you Israel. That's what makes you Israel. Is that your soul cannot live without God's light. That's it. Everything else is commentary. Everything else is fitting in with other people, which is fine. But you cannot have that as a basis. And even if a person starts off that way because they don't have Torah, how long does it last? So, anyways, that was just a little bit of a talk, just to go, because we have to have kavana. We have to have the right perspective. We can't continue on this process that Islam, told us that, oh, well, if we're Arab and we get Arabic names and we dress Arabic and we say Assalamu alaikum, we say this, so now we're holy. We weren't holy the way we were. We weren't holy. Now that you do this, you're holy. Or the church convincing us that we got to be more Protestant, like more like the assimilated other culture. We got to worship like them, right? Okay, and then we come into Judaism, and we come in with that same trauma, and we come and apply it to Judaism. So we put on all the clothes, all the outfits, we say all the words, but we not in the text. We not in the text. All right, so let's keep going. So it says by the or midat ha peri reshut. Okay, so he's saying like this. So now we're getting in this idea of separation, this dynamic of piety, right? Okay, so it says ha farishut tehilat ha chasidut. Okay, chasidut. So he says the separation is the beginning of piety. All that we have explained up to now concern the requirements needed for a man to become a tzaddik. From here on, we will discuss the requirements in order to become a chassid, a pious person, right? So this is the next level. It says, "V'nimsa maha parishu d'im maha chasidu d'hu kimo chazirut." Chazhirut. Okay. He says, we find that separation is a form of piety as watchfulness is to zeal. The former concerns returning from evil, while the latter concerns with doing good. Okay, so this is a very important point. So when we look at the 613 mitzvahs, right, we see the 248 as mechanisms that we should go after. And then the 365 being things that we stay away from. So one, we connect to God through like effort, through zeal of connection. And then there's another one of zeal of separation. So this is what he's saying over here. And so he says the latter of the separating of the negativity is the idea of becoming a chassid, right? This is the idea of becoming a chassid, a person who's pious, a person who goes the extra mile, right? Okay, so it says vehine kalala ha parishut hu ma she'emru zatzal. So he says like this. So he says the general principle of separation is what our sages of blessed memory sanctify yourself by abstaining from what is permitted to you. This is the meaning of the word separation itself. That is to say, to separate the distance from one thing, prohibiting oneself something which is permitted. Let's read this again. That is to say, to separate and distance from the thing prohibited on oneself, something which is permitted. Wait, what is this? I'm not even reading right now. Okay, so for anyway, so he says like this. He's bringing you from Euvalmus, and he says, "Sanctify yourself by abstaining of what is permitted to you." He says this means the word separation itself. That is to say, to separate and distance from the thing prohibited on oneself, something which is prohibited. The intent in this is not to come to violate the prohibited itself. So I guess here he's talking about like kind of like the like kind of like the fences that the rabbis put up, right? That these fences that we put up or the thing in itself, like for example, like there's obviously there's an argument, that you say is giving a hug to a woman you're not married to a problem. The teachings I learned from my rabbis, it is right because from the Kabbalistic standpoint is the dynamic that women who are nida they pass that on to you. The same way you don't hug your wife when she's in nida, the same way why would you hug another woman, right? So that's one point. But you could argue that the real issue here is intimacy, right, of an unclean woman, right? And so from there, you could say, oh, well, I'm not doing that. I'm just giving a hug. We're friends. Not a big deal. But then the Torah teaches in the same way that a Nazir doesn't mess with things that he doesn't just not drink wine, he doesn't even drink, he doesn't even deal with grapes. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't do anything that could lead to something ferment or raisins or any type of thing. So that's another aspect. So he's saying here, this idea of being a chassid is in the frame of total separation from these things. He says, Vehayinan, Shekol Daver Sheyochal Lehazaled Meminu. So he says the intent is that a person distances and separates from anything which may lead to something which could bring evil, even though right now it does not cause evil, and even though it is not evil itself. Hey, we know what that is. We didn't even say it. Vehi debonin ambe tirtze sheishte kana shalom madri got. So he says, if you contemplate and consider the matter, you will see that there are three different levels. He says yeesh. So he says he's prohibiting the things themselves, the prohibited things themselves. Okay, so that's like you can say that's deraisa. He says, Veish segu tehem vehem. So he says, in the fences, namely the decrees of the safeguard instituted by the sages, right? So this is the rabbinical takana, right? He says, Veish harihem shemu tal al kol peshuda uferush le asot. So he says, and distancing measures incumbent he says distancing. He says so. This is the third thing. Distancing measures incumbent on every man of piety to make himself to make himself to withdraw in the building. Additional personal fences. You create personal. You know yourself. You know if I do this, if I do that, if I go there. Like I know a guy. Like I go to the Temple Mount sometimes, right? I follow all the halacha, mikvah, this, the whole thing, right? So I go to the Temple Mount, and so I said, "Why don't you go?" It's this guy Leo. I said, "Why don't you go?" He says, I know myself. Once I go up there and I start connecting to that, I don't need to connect to that. So people, you have to know yourself, right? He says, abstain from permitted things which are not forbidden to every Jew, and separate them in order to keep far away from the evil, and to keep away from the evil at a great distance. Ve'im to Omar. So he says, and if you ask, on what grounds should we add additional prohibitions? Our sages of blessed memory already said it is the prohibition of the Torah is not enough for you to seek to forbid yourself additionally from additional matters. It says it's in the Yasharim, Talmud Yasharim. And so he keeps going. And so he says, surely what our sages in their great wisdom saw necessary to prohibit and make a fence and make fences he says, surely which are sages in their great wisdom saw it necessary to prohibit and make fences that they already do. Now, it's an interesting point that Rav Ashlag brought out, and he's talking about this idea of, he goes in this whole thing, and I look forward to learning it with you one day because it's so incredibly in depth. But Rav Ashlag brings this idea where he talks about the stages of Mashiach. I think we did learn this, like why Kabbalah is more relevant now, and how it could be revealed more now than before, right? And so one of his conclusions is that the reason why is because the structure of the spiritual body, right, which is the basis of Michaye Hamatim, right, that spiritual body that's connected to the mitzvot wasn't fully formed yet, and so therefore that wisdom couldn't come out, right? And so, sorry about that. Bring it back. Hold on one second. Anyways, so let's talk about it for a minute. So the thing is like this. So he's saying like this, and this is a very good point to just reflect on for a second. He's saying that we have to get into a place of governing ourselves, right? We got to get in a place of governing ourselves, and it's really connected this week's Parsha, right? I think we talked about it a little bit. The beginning of the Parsha starts with this words, Ve'ata Titzaveh, right? And this idea of the Or Chaim brings it out, that this idea of Ve'ata Titzaveh is really God telling Moshe to speak. Because his whole question was why is it that we say, I did a whole shir on this. He says, why do we say, why is he saying Titzaveh? Why doesn't he say, says Daber? Go and speak to the people. Why is he telling them to command with influence and authority? Because this is a transition of where Moshe became the full king over Israel, which created the structure of how the Kohanim had a place now, right? And so this idea that God is telling Moshe to speak, not as a representative of me, but rather as an authority, as a king of Israel, right? That this dynamic of you speaking in this way, right, is directly connected to this idea. But you know what? It's connected to this idea of Purim, right? Because Purim is also God speaking to us in an indirect way, in a concealed way, right? And there's a lot of other connections. But the point is just saying that when we're thinking about this idea, right? When we're thinking about this idea of what's going on, what we're doing, what's happening, is having in mind that you are in control of yourself. Mm-hmm. You decide your destiny. Hold on, let's keep going a little bit. How long do you have? You have another 30 or what do you got?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right. Okay. All right. So it says like this. So they're asking the question, what grounds do the sages have to add these additional prohibitions? Because you could say, well, don't add to the Torah, right? Now the question here is, are the sages adding to the Torah? If you make a prohibition on yourself, is that adding to the Torah, right? So that's what he's doing. He says, our sages of blessed memory already said, is what the Torah prohibits not enough for you that you seek to forbid yourself additional matters? Right? That's the question, right? He says, surely which are wisdom in our great wisdom. So this is the part I was mentioning earlier. So when Rav Ashlag talks about this idea of why Kabbalah is relevant, or why Kabbalah could be brought out now, it's always been relevant, but why it could be brought to the light now as it could in prior generations because of this spiritual chain that had to manifest prior, right? And he explains it through the frame of a body. But he does say, don't ask the question don't ask the question and say, well, why do we listen to the older sages then? Why do we listen to the Talmud? Why do we hold by the Tanaim as being authority, as Chazal? Because he say, no, just like the Kabbalah, right? Just like the Kabbalah, this is I think we should stop here. We could do a little bit later, but I'll tell you about it. Just a couple of things are going on today. But the thing is like this. We'll continue on, but I just want to make this point. The point is saying that Rav Ashlag brings out that the wisdom of the sages, in the frame of Peshat, of the age of the sage of the age of ethic and moral ethics, moral ethics and these types of things. Those dynamics we can trust from the sages because they were allowed to reveal that wisdom. They were allowed to reveal that wisdom of, okay, midot, how to deal with this, how to do the halakha, and all different things. Now, the deeper understandings, esoteric understandings of it, we did not have access to, right? And that's why it had to come later as the body fulfilled. Any thoughts, reflections, anything else said?
Um, I mean, it tells you in the Torah, like if I can't remember where it is, I think it's in Devarim, but like if your sage tells you your right hand is your left hand is your right hand, you follow it because these people have purified themselves. They're taking the steps. Like Moshe Rabbeinu, Moshe Rabbeinu went beyond the law, separated himself from his wife, separated himself from all pleasures. You know what I mean? Because he was the servant of Kadosh Baruch Hu. And the children of Israel, validated this point when, we want to talk to Hashem. Once they start talking to him, it's like, no, you talk to Hashem. You taking the necessary steps. You done the things that rather we won't do, can't do, or whatever the case may be. You're the vessel, and we're gonna follow that. So when you have people who dedicate themselves to Hashem, they purify themselves, they toil, they suffer. Torah is suffering in a sense because like King Shalomo said, with more knowledge comes more suffering. That's real. Like even the conversation we're having today, like for myself personally, I look out and I'm learning Torah, I'm learning with Azadik, connected to the Rabbanut and the viewpoint of the world. Don't nobody care. Nobody care about their soul. Don't nobody care about trying to elevate themselves and the world to come, and don't nobody care. People are just so connected to the body, so connected to what can I gain. And that's all that matters. So, it's a you have to really pacify yourself in a sense, and you have to really toil. You have to really understand that you're a servant of Hakadosh Baruch Hu, and you have to go through all of the conditions. I mean, and I think I said it to you yesterday, just going back to like African Americans, we all collectively should get together and say, man, hold on, what's going on? We're the only people in the world, the only people who know nothing about themselves. I mean, nothing. We can't trace back to nothing.
We ain't got a rock.
Nothing. You slaves. Like, hey, that's it. You came over from what? So it's like since we have Hashem gave us a blank canvas. He put us in a situation where you have to be perfect. You have to be. Your life depends on it. It's not no game. You know what I mean? And even if you are on the other side of wealth and materialism, you ain't gonna be accepted by the side that doesn't have it. If you're on the other side, it's like all these contradictions and all these elements, but it's all purification. It really
Exactly.
is. When you look at us and we have the most influence in the entire world, everyone want to be like us, but nobody wants to be us. Those are special components. You know what I mean? And I think I've said before, like the Ashkenazi Sephardic, brethren, they've been keeping Torah for millennia. Solid. Can't take that away from them. The additions that they made, they've added in the way that I shouldn't want them to. For African Americans to come back into Torah, you gotta come in with the utmost humility, which you don't have nothing. Oh yeah, we follow Tanakh. We Torah only. Da 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 da. You get laughed at because you don't have the full totality of what you need. But at the same time, you should be lauded because you care that much. You have no structure. You have
That's
nothing, but
true.
you're attempting in that way. So I look at us as like the basketball kids who have all the talent. I mean,
Mm,
just athleticism out the
mm,
gym, right? But ain't got no skill. No
mm.
skill training. Don't know how to break a two. If they put the zone on you, what you gonna do? If they pressing, what you gonna do? Like we don't.
I like
But
that. I
now,
like that. I like that.
now we're getting the training. Now we're going through the elements of like, all right, this is triple threat. Hey, when you get a double team, you swing to your team, and like we're going through that process, and I feel like
Mm,
it's something
I
really
like that.
beautiful, and I hope the world kind of. I mean, it is Hashem. It's Hashem. It's
Yeah,
complete.
that's it. That's it. It's so
The only thing that
obvious.
makes sense. It's so obvious that it's so
It's
obvious.
not.
That's how you know.
It's not
That's how you know
obvious.
it's Hashem. It's
Yeah.
like okay, we don't trust nothing about what's been given to us for valid reasons. This isn't racism. This is factual talk. We've been oppressed. We've been put in these conditions for 400 years. So we
So
have every,
medicine experimented on us. Finance denied
you know,
us.
put us,
Education. It's like,
put
come
us
on.
in the hood, put
Put
us
drugs in our community.
see what happens. What do they do? Now it's on autopilot in a sense. Give
Let's
them only negative.
break the family and see what happens.
So we should have this distrust. But we don't have a distrust when it comes to, well, you should believe in this or you should do this. It's like, hold on, that don't even make any sense. Oh, we should assimilate. Why would you? So when you see those type of conditions, it's like, oh, this is Yasharim. It's so obvious. It's not because nothing we've been through civil rights movements. We had all these Black Panthers. We had, in the '90s. I don't know if you want to count it. We had Tupac. I don't know. It was a spiritual movement. People were really connected to it. Whatever. We've had all these different things. We have Barack Obama become president of the United States. We've had all these different things, and yet and still, none of it works. We're still in the same place. Maybe it's because we are those people of the covenant. Maybe our ancestors prayed like, "Hey, Hashem," like the dove said with Noach, "Hey, I only take this bitterness from you. I don't want nothing from no one else." You know what I mean? So like for us, it's like the only thing that's going to liberate us is Torah. The only thing that's going to liberate us is finding out that you're holy. You have to be holy. There is no other way around it. You can't assimilate. That mountain is on top of you. You don't have a choice. So obvious. So I don't know, Rob. We just got to stay on it, man. It's Baruch Hashem. We're in the era of a Mashiach. We're in the era of Mashiach right now. What we're in the year 5785? I mean, we don't have that much time. Once you get to the 6,000 year, Hashem was like, okay, did you do it or did you not? It's going to happen regardless. You know what I mean? So you got these next years, but we're in an era. It can happen. Hopefully, Mashiach comes today, Baruch Hashem. But we're in an era, and we're gonna start seeing a movement. But I don't think the movement is gonna. It's not gonna be easy. It's not gonna. Whatever. Only two every 600,000 Jews came out of Israel, out of Mitzrayim. 2 out of 600,000. That's insane. Everyone ain't coming. Everybody don't want to come. A lot of Jews said, "I'm good, bro. I'm good, dog." Like this slavery stuff, I know you say it's slavery, but we doing good. We got affluence, you know what I'm saying? We can do what we need to do. Like, yeah, I know our ancestors keeping, yeah, but we good right now. I got a few meals. What you mean? That's gonna be the same thing. People ain't trying to, what? I gotta keep Torah. I can't go out on Friday night? What you mean? I can't go out on Saturdays? I gotta eat kosher? I gotta dress this way? I don't want to do that. I want to be free. But the true freedom is being a servant to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the whole purpose of the world. That's it. How that mentality gets into us, I don't know. Baruch Hashem, we just gotta stay at it, you know what I mean? And whenever Hashem allows the light to spark, it's gonna be like how was it with Rosh Chodesh when the sages would light the fire and one would wave to another, they would know, and then before you know it, it's like the whole mountain was on fire. Like I feel like it's gonna be like that. When it sparks, it's gonna spark.
Well, the thing is, 100% what you're saying is right, and that's the thing. This is about consciousness. This is not about religion. We don't need to bring millions of Black people to Judaism, right? What we need to bring is millions of people, but specifically we're talking about Black people, to a frame of fulfillment. How do I connect to my fulfillment? And they may find that way not in Judaism. They may find it through Christianity. They may find it through Islam. You know what I'm saying? But the point is saying the system of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Jacob, which is the dynamic of above materialism, above the system of leaving slavery, as B'nai Israel did. Those faculties, those consciousness points are that. Now, the ones who were the Israelites, they're going to be just like us. I can't live without it. I want the bris milah. I want the Torah. Those are the people that their neshamas came through. We don't know. It's been mixtures by us too. We haven't been a pure race since Africa. You know what I'm saying? We've intermixed with white people, with our slave masters, with American Indians, with Spanish, with Jamaicans, and all the other types of people that were in America. So we don't know what DNA has made it through or not. That's why you can't just say, oh, well, all Black people are Jews. No, you can't say that. You can say that Black people have a history that is connected to Israelites on the west of Africa going all the way back to Israel. But we can't just say that, oh, well, Black people are Jews. How do you know? We can't say that right now. Now, off the plantation ships, yes. 2025, you can't say that. But what you do know is the people who want the Torah and the mitzvot. And those people are Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it doesn't mean that, we need to congregate and only we're together, but just understand that those people are going to come through, and those are people who are going to help do proper conversions that are accepted by the state of Israel, that are accepted in America, right? That's the focus, right? I've already had that meeting with the rabbinate, you know what I'm saying? So that's not an issue, right? So the thing is just saying that when I say it's not an issue, that process is started, right? And so the point is just saying that. So that's one area, right? But the main area is consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
right? And influencing the arts, showing our artists what consciousness is, what music is, showing people who are in business which consciousness, with business, with this, with the ethics and morals in business from our tradition. They don't have to accept, but it's our job to give an option. Right. And so when we talk about the African American community, we want them to have consciousness. We want people to have an expanded understanding of the world through the wisdom of our sages. You don't have to believe our sages. Go ahead. If you see what we're saying and you say, oh, why? The Quran says like kind of like how you saying it. I like that. Okay, cool. Bismillah. Have a good Ramadan. Want us to teach you about fasting? We could show you about fasting. We could give you the mechanisms, how to draw the lights, the different types of fast, what it means. We could help you. We want to enhance your spiritual system. That's our job as Israel. Anyways, let's try to continue this evening. I should be fine in terms of everything. I want to finish this chapter. I just felt it was just important just to share that message, even though some people, use the N word. People don't like that, but it's needed because that name could also be elevated to holiness as well. When we're talking about transforming our condition, and that's it. But it's all love. It's not negative, but we have to see the way that we are in this world as a gift. That's the main thing. Baruch atah Adonai leolam.